Jason Minnix, the Blitz.
It is the Blitz here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250, 94.5 FM. I'm Jason Minnix. Cowboys with a huge win yesterday. We're going to have to start calling this the Cowboys Power Hour. The Moose, Daryl Johnston, three-time Super Bowl champion, will join us at 5:30 for Mondays with the Moose. And, of course, we start the hour with RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com, our original Rock the Mic champ, which is about to get underway again. See if you could be the next RJ Ochoa. RJ, the talk today on all the national shows, are the Cowboys the best team in the NFC? And I was surprised how many people said yes, including the likes of Jeff Saturday on ESPN. Where's your level right now when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, you know what, Jason? I love you more than life itself. So I'll tell you where I have the Cowboys in my power rankings that will come out tomorrow at bloggingtheboys.com.
Scoopage time.
You get the heads up. I have them fourth, not the top team in the NFC, actually not even the second team in the NFC. But some of that is like, you got to give credit to the Cardinals right now. They're undefeated. So like in a power ranking space, I think the Cardinals get that deference. But honestly, I mean, if the Cowboys and Cardinals played 10 times, I think the Cowboys will win more of them. I think the only team right now that I think you can confidently say are better than the Cowboys is probably the Buccaneers, and a lot of that's the fact that they're the only team that's beaten this team. But the Rams don't scare me. The Packers don't scare me. The Seahawks obviously have taken a step back. T's and T's for Joanna. But yeah, I mean, they are the real deal, man.
I'm curious, who is your third team? Because I know how your mind works with numbers, and keeping them at number 4 in line with Dak Prescott just makes all the RJ Ochoa sense in the world. Well,
so Tampa is my number 2 team. Arizona is number 3. Dallas is 4. So the team you're missing is the number 1 team. Who do you think I think is the best team in the NFL at the moment?
In the NFL or the NFC?
This is the NFL, whole NFL power rankings. The top 4 happens to have 3 NFC teams, but you're missing number 1 right now.
I would have to go with the Buffalo Bills, the team I picked to win the Super Bowl this year.
That's right. We're on the same wavelength. Buffalo looks great. And that's kind of the only real contender that Dallas won't face this year, because they're a step above the Rams. But Dallas has already played the Chargers, already played the Bucs. They'll play the Chiefs. They'll play the Cardinals. And so they're going to get their money's worth for the season. But, a Cowboys-Bills Super Bowl with Snoop Dogg, on the mic would feel awfully nostalgic.
And it would be the second time that the Cowboys and Bills would play in the Super Bowl in Los Angeles.
That's true. If you want to qualify it that way, that's very true. I'm trying to think of other things that happened in 1992 or January of 93 to kind of bring this thing home. But that would be sick, man. I mean, that would be sick. But is that not fair? Like, something we talked about on our postgame show last night was, what's the expectation? Because the expectation has clearly changed. And I think it's a fair thing. A lot of people were like, win the Super Bowl. But I still don't know that you can go that far. I think it's a fair expectation to say, given who you are now, given who your division is, given your path, if you don't make the NFC Championship game, then this season may be a failure. That's an aggressive word, but I think it is because of, all the circumstances around you.
I think it's a fair word, failure. I mean, the expectations for this team, and I go back to, I think Tony Romo quarterbacked 3 years where the legitimate expectation was go win a Super Bowl. And something always happened with Tony Romo, whether it was the Dez not catch that ended up being a catch. They probably maybe could have, maybe should have won the Super Bowl that year. They at least would have made the Super Bowl. They've had a couple of really good teams that could never get over the hump. There was always something. And with this team, this year's version of the Dallas Cowboys, and I know Jimmy Johnson said this on the Fox postgame show yesterday, reminds me of the teams that he coached. That's what he said. They're as good as those teams. I don't know that you could say that yet because they've got to go win a championship, but they certainly have all the makings. We're 5 weeks into this thing, and granted, the first 2 weeks, They could have easily been 2-0 or 0-2. Those came down to last-second kicks. But they have shown the many ways in which they can beat you week in and week out. You're deep enough in the season to say this team is for real.
Yeah, and I think, because everybody's obviously quick, right, to say, well, this is just like this year, whatever. Entering the Panthers game, they were in the top 10 in both offensive EPA per play and defensive EPA per play allowed. And the last time a Cowboys team was in the top 10 on both offense and defense in that metric at that point of the season was 2007. So your mind runs to like, oh, this is the 2007 season. But, obviously the Cowboys have had success in different years since then, to your point. And I was, recording with somebody for one of the episodes on our podcast network this morning. And this team kind of has the run game of 2014, but the defensive prowess of 2018, but the kind of overall stability of 2016 with kind of the passing game that evolved in 2019. So in a weird way, they've kind of gone back in time, like the Avengers when they went and took all those Infinity Stones, shout out to Pledge. And they've kind of picked the best versions of themselves from different seasons. And this sounds like crazy, but they've put it all together in one neat package here in 2021 because the offense, to your point, they can get you a number of different ways. Defensively, they're getting turnovers. In years past, it's been the chicken or the egg. You can't have both here, but the Cowboys have the chicken, the egg, the coop, the rooster. I mean, they literally have the coop and Amari Cooper. I mean, so it's almost alarming. It's unsettling that they are this well-rounded. It scares you a little bit.
And they're doing it without La'el Collins on the offensive line, yet that offensive line is doing a hell of a job blocking. They're doing it without DeMarcus Lawrence. They're doing it without some other key pieces on the defense. And even they let Jalen Smith go, and they don't miss a beat. Jabril Cox played well yesterday. I mean, he knocked the quarterback for the Giants out of the game, literally. And, the idea that Jason Garrett's not dumb. I know a lot of Cowboy fans might want to argue that, but he did go to Princeton. But they ran a play against a rookie who had not played a lot of defense at the NFL level. They tried to catch number 14 making a mistake, and it didn't happen.
It bothers me so much that he wears number 14 as a linebacker, but I'll move past that. It's unfortunate that Daniel Jones was hurt on the play, and obviously, we're all hoping he's healthy and gets right. So it makes it difficult to celebrate that play. But that really, you don't want to speak ill of Jalen Smith, but that's not a play that Jalen makes. To be blunt, to be honest, to be frank, I mean, to be however you want to put it, that's a play that you need your linebacker to make, and Jalen just doesn't. He doesn't have that closing speed. Maybe he had it once upon a time 3 years ago in 2018 when everything was clicking for him. Everybody remembers the play he made on Deshaun Watson and against Alvin Kamara later in the season. But Jabril Cox was, and that's the thing, man. I mean, Jabril Cox is like the fifth rookie that they're getting elite production from this year. I mean, Micah Parsons is starring. Osa Digizua is starring. Chauncey Golston had a great game last week. Quentin Bohanna has had some nice moments so far. I mean, so just like welcome to the party, Jabril Cox. I mean, they're not even playing. You mentioned La'el Collins is out. DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously, too. Donovan Wilson, shout out to the Fighting Texas Aggies of College Station, Texas, for that big win on Saturday night. Hasn't been playing. Kelvin Joseph, the team's second-round pick, hasn't been playing. Neville Gallimore, their third-round defensive tackle from last year, hasn't been playing. And some of those things have opened up opportunities for other players. And so maybe you hate to call them blessings in disguise, but that's where this team is different, too, is, in years past, under Jason Garrett, if everything went according to plan, the plan that he devised in his office with his Princeton level education, everything would work out. But so often in the NFL, it doesn't. You're going to be challenged. Players are going to be injured. You're going to have to rely on depth. And that's where this team can sustain itself where others couldn't in the past.
RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com joining us here on the Blitz on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM. You look at the defense and what Diggs continues to do. Another interception yesterday. At some point, people are going to quit throwing towards him as much. The question I have when that happens, and I don't know that he's going to go all Dion and just take away half the field because he's rotating, he's following the best receivers, and, quarterbacks are going to try to get the ball to their best receiver. Anthony Brown had a nice game yesterday, had a nice pick six. He also interfered with a guy that somehow still caught a pass. If they start working more Anthony Brown just to stay away from number 7, can he handle that workload and pressure? Or what do the Cowboys have to do to get him some additional help?
I mean, maybe that's where Kelvin Joseph comes in. But it's clear that Anthony Brown is the weakest link on the defensive side of the ball. He's been targeted a ton. He's been picked on a ton because who wants to throw at Trayvon Diggs except for literally every quarterback the Cowboys have played this season. But that's tough. But that's, at this point, I think Dan Quinn's earned kind of the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, everything he's touched has kind of turned to gold so far this season. But yeah, I mean, and that's like no roster's flawless. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has A+ superstar players, at all 22 positions. But that's where the Cowboys can be had, and that's where they're going to have to, maybe they give him some safety help. Maybe, I mean, maybe they just kind of cross their fingers and hope. But that is definitely a point of weakness when it comes to this defense.
When you with all the circles that you're always running in and the different insight that you get, Canada was just incredible in training camp the week we were in Oxnard. And when Diggs came out of the game, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, against the Panthers,
and Canada got in the game, and it looked like he did okay. I'm just curious why he isn't getting more playing time instead of Anthony Brown. Is Anthony Brown better than most of us think? Because I know when it comes to corners, there's a lot of times where, depending on the coverage, he was maybe supposed to release the guy and the safety should have picked him up, although we all want to blame Anthony Brown. And that's just life as a defensive back, that unless you know what the call is, you really don't know whose responsibility that was. It just seems over and over it's Anthony Brown. Could he be better than what we give him credit for?
I don't know that I would categorize it as being better. He might just be more reliable. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like, he might raise your floor, whatever, slight margin that is. I mean, and that's what it's about. I mean, and to be fair, I mean, the Cowboys released Jalen Smith last week, and you mentioned it. There are 3 players left from that 2016 draft class: Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Anthony Brown. I mean, he has hung on for a very long time. And really kind of evolved into this role. And I mean, so like through that lens, you're way ahead on Anthony Brown. You've gotten way more out of him than you ever possibly could have imagined when they took him out of the 6th round 5 years ago. But I do think in that sense, he knows this defense. He knows this, group of players. Obviously, he's not as foreign of a injection like Maurice Kennedy would be. But I do think you're going to have to rely on Maurice Kennedy at some point. And again, I think that's where maybe Kelvin Joseph comes in. Although, people love to say like, oh, just, when Kelvin Joseph comes back, he's taking Anthony Brown's starting spot. It's like, dude, starting at corner in the NFL is very difficult. And, Anthony Brown's not great at it, but I do think that as hard as it is to believe, he just has the highest floor based on his experience in the NFL in general and with the Dallas Cowboys specifically.
RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com joining us here on the Blitz. I was at the game yesterday, so I didn't get the enjoyment of Joe Buck.
I'm back on Instagram. I saw all of it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. You've been there, I mean, that's a great way to do a game, but you don't get Troy and Joe. What was the turning point for you of that game? Because it was a game at halftime, surprisingly, but because the Cowboys had allowed it to be with some mistakes, a weird interception thrown down. And you look at this Cowboys team right now is playing at a level that when they lose, will they get beat or will they beat themselves? They were beating themselves, even though they had the lead at halftime. It was only a game, from what I could see, because the Cowboys allowed it to be.
Yeah, I thought the first half, the first quarter really was one of the worst quarters that Dak has played in a long time. And call that what you will. Obviously, a really emotional game with it being the effective 1-year anniversary, return to the scene of the crime, etc. But I would argue that the turning point was the 49-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb, because that was kind of a okay, this is still in their wheelhouse. The Giants can't do that. This is going to come. This is a sign of things to come. But I think it was stealing that touchdown at the end of the first half to Amari Cooper, going into halftime with a lead. But if you're looking for an actual swing point, it probably was the Trayvon interception, because at halftime and the general conversation while you were drinking a lot of water was, okay, Daniel Jones is out, Mike Glennon's hurt. This is unfortunate, but there's no way this should be a game in the second half. The Cowboys should come out and roll over the Giants, and they did that. I thought that, they got the interception. They just poured it on. It was another fantastic third quarter. And that's kind of where they've been the last 2 weeks, is they've kind of not slept walk through the first half, but, even against the Panthers, there was this conversation of like, man, they were losing that game 14-13. And then they had one of the greatest third quarters they've ever had when they just absolutely exploded, and Trayvon had the 2 interceptions. And so that's, may call it halftime adjustments, but I definitely say when they come out of the locker room in general for the second half, they're a different team. And the results start to show that, or have started to show that over the last couple of weeks.
Well, and they play their third quarters have been incredible. And against Carolina, great third quarter, not so good fourth quarter. This game, they put a team away and extended, and we haven't seen that from the Cowboys in so long. They had them on the ropes, and they delivered the knockout blow.
Yeah, and that's, Mike McCarthy was criticized for the way he handled the end of the first half against the Eagles, kind of dismissing that extra possession. And I didn't have as big of a problem with the end of the game against the Panthers. I thought the Cowboys, because you reach a certain point, where it's like, hey, don't risk anybody. Don't go have somebody get hurt because you're trying to play hero. You're trying to, pour it on. Like, send your message. Like, I love Zeke high stepping it into the end zone. Do all that stuff. But at a certain point, it's, unless you're Vic Fangio, it's about, ending the game. I guess Vic Fangio actually supports that line of thought, thinking back over that. But I'm not concerned. And I think, this is strange because they've often been this fourth quarter team, right? They've often been this team that's like had to try to pull a rabbit out of a hat or a hat out of a rabbit, like Jason Witten said, in the fourth quarter and pull off something miraculous. But they don't. I mean, like, their greatest flaw, seriously, is that they build great leads and then just, kind of chill a little bit. And I think that they've earned that right, and they know the level of comfortability they can play with. And, they haven't lost doing that. And maybe you could argue they're going to do it, soon. But, I mean, I love that. I love, building your mountain and then, grabbing a drink, putting it on ice, and just watching the clock tick down to 000.
New England coming up this week. New England got a huge win. No, I can't even call it that, over Houston. But Bill Belichick is a defensive wizard. And I look at what this offense has been. Game 1, 58 passes. Dak said at training camp in Oxnard, if he throws for 5,000 or 6,000 yards, that means they're not being balanced. 300 passing yards yesterday. Zeke runs for 110. Pollard runs for 75. They're staying balanced. They're doing everything. But now you got Belichick against Kellen Moore. That's quite the matchup coming up. What are you expecting to see Sunday against New England?
This is maybe my favorite game of the year that I'm looking forward to so far because of the matchup. Kellen Moore's offensive disposition, aggressively attack what the defense gives you, and that defense doesn't give you a lot. And I know the Patriots obviously aren't who we've known them to be for so long, but look at the way they played Tampa, a couple of weeks ago. They certainly are still capable of confusing people from a defensive standpoint and giving them their all. And so I think that, Kellen's going to do that. Kellen's going to take the low-hanging fruit. And I think the Cowboys, they can run on this Patriots team. I think they're not going to try anything. They're not going to, try to be heroes themselves. They're not going to try to air it out. They're not going to do anything that's going to maximize or even enlarge the level of risk that, goes into this game, because that's how you lose games. You lose games trying to throw these YOLO balls like Mike Glennon did, and they get picked off by elite players. And there are a lot of elite players in the NFL. And so I think the Cowboys are going to be smart. They're going to be methodical. I think that they're not going to do what they've done every time they played the Patriots, where they're going to try to hold the ball forever and put together 14-minute drives, because that's the Jason Garrett way. And I think that they'll build a lead, and I think they might, pressure Mac Jones, cause a couple turnovers, couple short fields off 3 and outs, and it'll just be too much. And then, Mac Jones has to get risky, and that's when the turnovers start to come like they have the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Diggs is going to add to his collection. That's exactly what he's going to do. RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com. Always appreciate it. Enjoy the week. Enjoy your Victory Polo Monday.
Hey, I'm looking for new polos. I'll hit up Sammy. You know what I mean? Figure something out, because this is nuts. I mean, like, what? And I don't want to wear like white 2 weeks in a row or navy 2 weeks in a row. I don't want people to be like, man, he's wearing the same one, not doing laundry. I just want to be cool about it.
Well, I mean, there's something about doing the same thing every week because, superstitious stuff.
I suppose. But either way, you both look sharp. Pledge didn't participate in Victory Polo Monday, which offends me. But, you guys still both look sharp.
I mean, are you kidding? He's a Texan fan. He goes with wife beater Monday because he got beat on Sunday. I mean, that's typically what he has to do.
I think he's actually going with Ben Affleck cardigan Monday. That's what what Pledge is rocking right now.
You know,
he's in the movie Geely.
When the cardigan comes off, he's just in the t-shirt. I mean, it's a fashion I'm not down with.
Well,
Me,
Pledge a pretty
I'm down with
guy.
A blue Cowboys polo. I'm good to go.
Sweet. Well,
good stuff.
Again, sorry
Appreciate
to Joanna for the Russell Wilson thing. That sucks. It doesn't really suck, but it sucks.
Yeah, she's fine. She might not even be aware. It's all good. RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com. We'll catch up to you next week. Make sure you're reading all his coverage and all the coverage there at bloggingtheboys.com.